Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Hickey, and I'm excited that we're all here this morning to talk about productivity and efficiency. I am a customer success manager with Desk. I've been here for about 8 months, helping customers like yourselves get more out of Desk, focusing on some of these efficiency tools. I'm a productivity nut. I practice inbox zero in my personal life and my professional life. And I also run my whole house off of a task management app. And I'm really excited to work with you guys this morning. I'm joined by my co-pilot, Barbara Tasso.
Good morning, everybody.
And like I said, we are very excited this morning. Couple of housekeeping items before we get started. We're going to have about 40 minutes here of pure productivity and efficiency. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end. We do have quite a large crowd, so if we don't get to your questions, we'll have to work on a way to follow up with you. This webinar will be recorded and emailed to you tomorrow, so if you do have to step away for whatever reason, don't worry. We'll make sure that you get the content. These webinars are always more effective for all of us if we ask questions as we go along. Barb will be monitoring the questions as we go. If there's anything that we need to get to in the moment, she will alert me. Otherwise, we will try to get to as many of them at the end. If you would rather, at any point in the webinar, email me into the Desk account we'll be working at, you can go ahead and email me at briansbikehelp@gmail.com. We'll be working in a hypothetical bike shop today. And emailing me there will populate a actual case in the Desk account we're working on, so you can kind of see live what the agent experience would be for emailing your question in. Today's webinar is a little bit more advanced. We are going to assume that you have some familiarity with the admin console and some of the terms that I'm talking about. If at any point you find yourself a little behind on what we're talking about, we do have admin webinars, and I'm also doing this webinar again on March 15th. So if you want to go to our support page, support.desk.com, click on resources, and then click on webinar and events, you can see our other admin webinars. We're revamping them, so we'll have an advanced web admin and an intro admin. And so you can either you can attend those and come back and watch the recording, or as I mentioned, join me on the 15th again. Yeah. Hold on, just having one quick audio issue. Oh, okay. I think we just had a blip there. So, quick look at our agenda. We'll touch briefly on why it is that I am so passionate about efficiency and productivity. We'll cover our 4 main tools that we use to become more efficient and productive in Desk. I'm going to walk through a couple of example workflows, which is a sort of end-to-end password reset help, as well as a multi-step macro for getting activity logs off of an iPhone app. We'll have that Q&A that I mentioned, and then we'll discuss resources and next steps. So first and foremost, why do I care about efficiency? Why am I so passionate about this topic? And it's because I care about my customers, and I think that you should also. Efficient agents can solve more cases per hour, meaning your customers get their responses back even faster. And some of the rules that we're going to set up today can actually help your customers get a response to their query before an agent even looks at the case. So basically automatic. And this really improves the customer experience. We'll talk about ways to personalize the customer experience today to give your customers a personal touch at scale. And then, from a bottom line perspective, efficient teams can help you grow your organization at your own pace. Efficient agents obviously can get to more cases per hour, and that way you can just sort of manage your team and some of the costs that are involved. So, these are my 3 main reasons why I'm so passionate about efficiency. As I mentioned, we're going to go over our 4 main tools here. The first tool is rules, and the Desk Rules Engine. You set up a condition, and a condition can be just about anything about a case. Its age, the value for a field, an agent working a case, we'll look at a bunch of different conditions today. And when those conditions are met, the Desk Rules agent performs an action. And an action can be reassigning a case, setting a field value, adding or removing a label, and a number of other options. Rules are set up ahead of time work in the background, and after setup require no human interaction. Our next tool is macros, and macros can do four main things. They can insert pre-written or pre-canned text into a response, saving your agent from having to type out the same text over and over again. We can modify case values or case fields, so we can set values for a field like contact reason or issue type. We can modify case labels, so we can add a big red label for complaint if the customer's having a complaint. In that way, there's a nice visual indicator that this case could use some more attention. And then lastly, macros can insert case notes, which is internal text for agents only. And this way, if you're using a macro to escalate a case to another team, common courtesy is that you put in a case note there so that the receiving agent gets some context. And we can do all of these actions on a single case with one macro. Now, we have two tools that you may not be as familiar with. The first is called liquid variables. And you'll see a lot of these today, and they're recognizable by the twin curly brackets on either side. And basically, it allows you to type out something like this, customer.first_name in a macro, in an auto acknowledgement, in a notification email, a number of other places in Desk, and actually replace it with the customer's first name. So as I was talking about, this really allows you to personalize the customer experience at scale and allow each customer to really feel listened to. We have a whole bunch of different liquid variables that range from customer name to company name to case ID, which is very helpful. When you're going back and forth with the customer, you can just drop their case ID in. And so the takeaway here is that it is a variable that you write once, and then the Desk engine fills it in with the appropriate value. And you'll see me use a lot of these today. Now lastly, another big tool that we're going to use to extend the power of a rule is something called regular expression. And this might be the one that you're least familiar with, but if you are, kudos. And regular expression is basically a parsing tool. And what I mean by that is you provide the tool a pattern that you're looking for in a body of text. Say an ID number, a shipping number, anything that is going to be different case to case, but follows some kind of pattern. Regular expression then scans that body of text and pulls out the values that match your pattern. Now this is helpful in a number of contexts in programming and software, and in our context, we want to parse interactions that come in and out of Desk and use the values that come off to kick off some rules. So just a quick visual metaphor here. We have our source text. We have, and again, regular expression is text-based, but I just thought that this was a nice visual metaphor here. So we tell our regular expression that we're looking for individuals in this picture who have a striped shirt, blue pants, and a striped hat. And then the value result that it provides is Waldo. And so we're going to step out of my deck here into a tool to show you a little bit more about how this works. So this is a website called regexr.com, regexr.com. This is a free website that you can go to right now, and it's basically a sandbox for testing regular expression. So we have a helpful cheat sheet over here on the left-hand side that gives us all of our different regular expression characters that we can use. And here's my body of text. And basically, let's pretend this is an email that's come from a customer, and I want to find out if he or she has used the word password. So I'll type the word password. And you can see, sure enough, I have 4 matches there. And this is similar to just Control F, finding something in text. But what if someone were to capitalize the P in password? Well, the regular expression way to look for this is we'll put a bracket and a capital P next to the lowercase p, and then another bracket. And now you can see we have more matches. We have 6. And basically this is saying we want to find a capital P or a lowercase p, and then the rest of the word. What if someone should capitalize the W? Maybe they're just typing really fast. So again, we'll go bracket W. And now you can see I have another match right there. And if we take this kind of to the nth degree, and basically all we want is any combination of the letters and password, and we want where there's 8 of them. So we'll just say P, we'll get A, S, W, O, R, D. And now, because it's looking for just all of those letters, you'll see a bunch of matches. But the word password has 8 characters. So I'm going to tell regular expression via these curly brackets that I'm looking for 8 characters. And now I have 10 matches. And what's really cool about this is, look, it has picked up passrod, it has picked up psrod, and basically, you know, customers, if you don't use regular expression, you're going to have to set up a condition for every possible iteration of the word password, whereas with this one tool, we can look for any combination of those characters. So the takeaway here about regular expression, in a nutshell, is that in Desk, you are able to use a tool called regular expression, or regex, to parse the text in the body of an email or interaction to initiate rules. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this tool and we're going to set up a rule in Desk that will automatically send password reset information to a customer who mentions the word password in their message. For the purposes of today's demo, we're going to be working in Brian's Bikes. It's my hypothetical bike shop. It sells bikes online and in various locations around San Francisco. We have a mobile app as well. So here's our scenario. You run support for Brian's Bikes, which has a customer community. People frequently forget their passwords and need help resetting them. We want to set up the fastest way possible to provide these customers with the help that they need, preferably without any agent interaction. You know, sometimes that's not going to work. Sometimes someone needs extra help. So we want to set up our agents with a quick way to ask for more information if it's needed. And lastly, when we come back with that information, we want to record their username into a custom field to facilitate getting them back into their account. Because again, the whole point here is we want to give the customer the best experience possible. So we're going to create a rule, a macro, and another rule. Okay, that's a lot. Let's get into it. Going to go back to here and I'm going to copy this. I'll need it. And I'm in the Desk admin console. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to channels. And I'm going to navigate to email. And I'm going to click on auto acknowledgements. Auto acknowledgements are a pretty standard tool in support. If you've ever emailed a company and you've got an email right back that tells you that they got your query and gives you an idea of how long you can expect to wait for a response, that's an auto acknowledgement, and we're actually going to use this tool for this password reset example. I do recommend setting up an auto acknowledgement in general, and that's something that we do cover in our other admin webinars. So I already have set it up. I'll click the pencil icon. And there's 2 ways to set up an auto acknowledgement. You know, the one that we'll be looking at today is in the HTML here. If you want to set this up today and you are not familiar with HTML or you don't have someone on your staff that can do that, we can just work in plain text. So we'll toggle that. And then we can just add the text here in the bottom, anywhere that you want it to be. So again, if you don't have access to someone that is familiar with HTML, we can still get this set up today. So here's the text that I've added. The first thing I want you to notice is my liquid variables, noted by the 2 curly brackets. And what this is going to do, again, is replace customer.firstname with the customer's name, really helpfully giving that personal experience at scale. There's a number of other liquid variables here. So the other one that I mentioned was case ID. So you can input the case ID into the case, which helps the customer reference their own case. We've put in company name and a few other things. And so you can see this helps someone go to briansbikes.com/reset to reset their password. So now I'm going to set up the rule to actually send this auto acknowledgement. So in this case, I will go to Cases, and I'll go to Rules, And what accordions out here at the bottom is all of our different types of rules. And these tell the Desk rules engine when to evaluate a given case. So because we're looking at emails that are coming into Desk, we're going to use an inbound interaction because something's coming in from the customer. And again, I've already got this set up here. So I'm going to click the pencil icon. So I mentioned rules have conditions. There's two types of condition. There's an all condition and an any condition. For this rule to be performed, for the rule actions to be performed, all of the all conditions must be met, and at least one of the any conditions must be met. So the first condition is case status is new. And because we only want this to run one time on a new case, if a customer responds back and says, I still can't get into my account, we don't want to send back the same auto acknowledgement. That's just going to be a frustrating experience for the customer. So we make sure case status is new. And we have two any conditions here, and the first is going to look at that subject because the person might put password in either the subject or the body, and we want to say contains, and then here's our regular expression here. It's the same one I just showed you, so it's going to look for that combination of letters that have 8 characters, which will catch random capitalization as well as typos. Very, very important. Please take note, you must check the use regular expression box. Otherwise, it's going to look for literally this string of text in an email, and I think that the likelihood of that being in an email is very low. So make sure we do that. Very similarly for the body, I'm going to do the same thing and check use regular expression. And our two rule actions here are we're going to set case status to resolve. And the reason for this is in an ideal hypothetical world, we send this to the customer, we resolve their case, they get the auto acknowledgement, they reset their password, and they can move on with their lives. And resolving the case puts it out of sight, out of mind for our agents. They can stay focused and keep being productive. Should this customer respond back, just because it's resolved, the case will still reopen and the customer will be able to get help. So this is just, again, in an ideal scenario. And then we're going to send an email acknowledgement, and we're going to send the one that we just created, password reset. We're going to enable it, and we'll make sure that we update. So now I'm going to show you how this would work. I've got my email typed out. And again, if any of you would like to try this out on your own, briansbikehelp@gmail.com. And you can see help, I'm locked out of my account. I need help setting my password. And I'm typing very fast. I'm passionate about bikes. I need to get in my account. And I typed too fast and I misspelled password. And as we wait for those cases to come in, one thing that I wanted to point out here is that these rules, a case is evaluated in the order that these rules are set. So if you have any other auto acknowledgements, we want to make sure that they're below our password reset. That way they get the password reset first. Additionally, we'll probably want to add a condition here for our since last auto acknowledgement is greater than 1. And this basically just says if a customer files multiple cases, we're only going to send them one auto acknowledgement an hour. And this just avoids any kind of situation if you have multiple auto acknowledgements set up where a customer gets a few of them. So it looks like I got an email back from Desk, and you can see right here, there's our auto acknowledgement, despite the fact that I misspelled password, and I can click on this link and I can get right back to work. And so this is available, for any kind of pattern text that you might have. We could, so a couple of other examples of ones you might want to set up are upcoming events. So if you have an event calendar and someone sends an email in and wants to know about upcoming events, we could set up some regular expression to catch that. Media inquiries, advertising. We have a number of examples on our support center of how you can fight spam with regular expression. This is a really easy way because, again, what's nice about this rule, and I'm just going to go back to it, is that if we didn't use regular expression, as I mentioned, you would need an any condition for every possible iteration of misspelling and capitalization of password. If you have an idea of how of something where you want to use this, but you're not 100% comfortable with regular expression, our support team loves working on these cases. It's always an interesting sort of Sherlockian effort to find the right way to use this. So we always find that really exciting. Okay, so as I mentioned, we hope that this resolves our customer issue, but I was not able to get back into my account with this link. So I'm just going to reply here, and I'm going to say, that didn't help. What are my options for getting back into my account? And I'll send that off. In these cases, we really want to help our customers get back into their account, but to verify their identity, we need 4 key pieces of information to make sure that we're giving access to the right person. We also need to escalate this case to our Tier 2 team, who works on these types of issues and has a little bit of advanced training. So to help our agents move fast and help customers quickly, we'll create a macro to collect those 4 pieces of information. So in this case, I'll click on Cases again, and I'll click on Macros. And I'm going to scroll down here to my password reset macro, and I'll click the pencil icon. And there's a couple of things here, some sort of smaller efficiency tips. We want to put our macros into folders as we start to create more of them. It's going to help our agents find the right macros at the right time. You know, if you're looking for escalation macros, they're in the escalation folder. If you're looking for frequently asked question macros, they're in the frequently asked question folder, and so on. Scrolling down here, you can see all of our options. The next thing that I want to do is I want to append a label for password reset. You'll see there's a append label, and up at the top we had set label. The difference between set and append is if you have multiple rules and you're adding lots of labels or you're removing labels, we really want to append. Set will remove whatever labels are currently on the case, and append will just add this label to any existing labels in a list there. And that way, if you have multiple rules running, you're not removing valuable labels. The next thing we'll do after this macro is we're going to set the status to pending. And the reason here is similarly, we are waiting on the customer. Case status is a great indicator of whose court the ball is in. So we're waiting on information back from the customer. We need these 4 key pieces of information. We want our agents to keep moving faster, and so pending will take it out of their inbox filter if we have that set up correctly, and really just help our agents move faster. We're going to assign the group to our Tier 2 support team. They're the ones that handle these things. My quick reply is the canned text, the pre-canned text. You can see here my 4 pieces of information that I need. I've got my liquid variable to make sure that I give this customer personal experience. And I'm also going to set my case contact reason. If you don't already have case contact reason as a custom field, if you get one thing out of this webinar, set up a case contact reason. A lot of people think of support as a cost center, but by starting to pull valuable information like what platform your users are on, why they contact you, you can really help affect change in your business as a whole. So for example, if 90% of my cases, the case contact reason is password reset, maybe our password reset instructions aren't helpful enough, and we can improve that and give those customers just that much better experience. Permission to this macro. Don't think of permission to this macro as a security feature. While it could be that, think of it more about efficiency. If I only have access to the macros that I need, it's going to take me less time to get through them all. So we'll assign it to my Tier 1 group, we'll enable it, and we'll update it. So now we're going to go to our inbox. We're going to find our poor locked out user. Our webinar room is over here in the corner of the office, and sometimes our Wi-Fi isn't as fast as we would like it. And you can see here, here's my case, and it did reopen as I mentioned. So we closed it out initially. We sent that auto acknowledgement, but oh no, poor Bob here still needs help. So I'm going to use my macro that I just created, and you might be thinking, oh, he's going to click on use macro, but no. Here's another productivity tip. We're just going to type pound pound, and then we're going to start typing the name of the macro, and just like that, we can drop it in, saving ourselves from ever even having to have our fingers leave the mouse. We have a number of keyboard shortcuts for those of you that like to move fast, and you can find them up here under this link. And so it dropped our pre-canned text in, it set our status to pending, it added a label, it escalated, and all of that cool stuff, our contact reason, in one quick motion. And so now I'm going to send an update. And now Bob, poor locked out Bob, will get his email even faster. And you can, one thing to notice is we're 3 or 4 interactions on this case, and we're only a few minutes into it. You know, it was created at 9:20, and we already are on our 3rd or 4th interaction 8 minutes later. So that's how fast we can help our customers. And just to make sure that poor Bob got his message. Well, we'll come back there again. We're in the corner of the office here. So now that we're waiting on the customer for information, you know, one thing to note is that once they respond, it's still time-consuming for our Tier 2 team to get them back into their account. You know, depending on how many interactions we have, that agent might have to scroll through here, find the case, you know, and that's just going to take us that much longer. And time is efficiency here, and efficiency is what we're talking about. So one of the things that we need is our user's username. And you'll notice I have a custom field over here for username. So is there any way that we could, based on this pattern here, automatically fill our username field? And it turns out that we can. So I'm going to go back to my deck here for a second. And we're going to use a string here that is a combination of both liquid variable and regular expression. So the first thing that you'll see here is we've got our curly brackets that lets you know that it's a liquid variable. The next piece of text is telling Desk Rules Engine that we want to look in the body of a customer's email. And we're going to look for, we're going to scan that body for the phrase username colon, and that's all still liquid variable, and then we're going to drop in just a hint of regular expression. And what this is saying is we want to capture, that's what the parentheses tell us, we want to capture what comes after username. The period and asterisk tell it we want what's on that line, any number of characters. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to go back into our admin console. And we're going to click on rules, and we've got another inbound interaction here, because again, this is information that's coming from the customer, and we have a rule here called set username. I'll click the pencil icon. The first thing you'll notice is we don't have any conditions. Our condition here is basically that the interaction is coming into Desk, so that's the only condition we need. We don't need anything extra. And we're going to set customer username, that's my custom field, and then here is our super-powered combo of regular expression and liquid variable. We want to make sure that it's on, and then we update. We'll go back to our email here. Let's see, do a little live troubleshooting. One thing that I do happen to know is if anyone wasn't familiar, we also rely on Amazon's web services, and they had a little bit of an issue, and so I think things are still coming back online here. So what we'll do is we'll just copy this email here. I had hoped to show you it just coming in, but we'll reply here and we'll put username, and we'll fill this out as if it had come from that macro. So my username is Bob Vance 3434. My first name is Bob Vance, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So while we wait for that to come in and show you that cool rule and effort, I did notice that we had one willing subject here. So you can see, let's see, we are an e-commerce brand and have yet to find a way to assign return reasons, style, color, material, etc. to multiple items listed in a return. How would you identify these through custom fields or labels? So, I think that this is a really great question, and I think you're getting an idea of it based on what I'm trying to show you here. So, this is username, but if the email that came in, had return reason : that would work just as well, and you could set a custom field. If you have multiple items, you could possibly have return reason 1, return reason 2, and we can use regular expression to identify those values, as long as there's some kind of pattern. And this is, again, another really cool question for our support team. I think that this is a little beyond the scope of today, just to make sure that we get you everybody's questions answered.
So Olivia, one other thing you can consider for a very structured returns form is actually using the desk email or contact form. So if you, we can send you some resources after the fact, but basically the Desk Support Center has a built-in email form that can be really customized. So you can actually repurpose that to a returns form and ask a number of questions in a very structured way that then actually populate custom fields directly from that contact form. So we won't have time to go into that today, but I will follow up and send you some resources on how you can set that up.
Thanks, Barb. And looks like we're still waiting on the email to come in. And so one thing that I want to call attention to while we wait for that is, my goal today is to really inspire you to create some of these rules, to think about how in Olivia's case we can use this password or username example to do return reasons, shipping confirmation numbers. Zip codes is another great example if you assign cases based on zip code. So if there's, you have the phrase zip code in an email, we can say we want to pull those 5 digits out and put them into a custom field, and then we would like a corresponding rule that would assign a case based on zip code. And, like I said, I'm trying to inspire you guys. I want you to set up a bunch of rules and become as efficient as possible. One thing that might happen as we start to get more efficient is that, we might find ourselves with a case and we're not sure what happened to it. And that's when we want to use the case timeline. So if we scroll down here to the bottom, you can see an entire history of what happened to a case. So we've got, you can see all of the rules that came in. There's that password reset that we looked at. Here's what the rule that reopened the case after I responded, all of my labels. And this is the best place to look to sort of triage anything that might be going on with a case if something is happening and you're not sure why. And those are our case timeline. If we go to our inbox here, if we look at case filters, in case you're not familiar, case filters are not a way to store cases. It's not like a folder in an email. It's more along the lines of a view into a case based on some conditions, sort of very similar to the way a rule is set up. And these can also be assigned to agents. So, I really like the inbox. It shows me all of the cases that are open, that aren't resolved. You could have a filter for escalated cases. You could have a filter for cases where the contact reason is complaint. As a manager, you might want to look into that. You could have a filter for cases where the customer is given positive or negative customer satisfaction. And again, it's a really cool way to sort of organize your workflow and help your agents, maximize efficiency. So this came through, and it did take a second there. Like I said, we are having some slowdown from the Amazon effect yesterday. But look at that. We've got our username filled, all without any human interaction. And now my Tier 2 staff can take that and the other pieces of information that I provided, Bob provided, and get this customer back to their account. And again, this all happened in about 15 minutes. And this is an example where a customer is really needing help. So just to reiterate here, Olivia brought up a great example of how we could bring in return reasons and set fields based on an email. Regular expression really takes the rules to that next step, and we can look for typos in different things. If anything's structured, if you get an email from maybe a partner when a product ships, if you work with third parties to help your customer, you can set that third party in the field. And then the other nice thing about using customer fields here is anytime Bob creates a case, this customer object is going to travel with him. So we'll always have his username here, even if Bob files a case 2 months from now and lost his password again. If Bob changes his username and does this again, we'll update it there. And so that's why I really love these rules. Okay, so that's our password example. And now we're going to go into our next example. Our second scenario involves the Brian's Bikes mobile app. When a customer has an issue with the app, first thing that we need every single time, without question, is a data log that keeps track of all of the processes running on the app. We need to get it from the user's phone or device to diagnose the issue. Finding the log is different on every platform, and we don't want to just send the steps for every platform because I don't want to confuse my customer. Then, after we get that log, we want to make sure that the agent fills out the platform field so we can begin tracking the number of bugs we have from each platform. And we want to make sure that this becomes a required field. So what we're going to set up is a multi-step macro. The first where we ask the user for their platform. The second macro where we tell them how to get us a data log. And then the third one where we make sure that that platform field is required, again, because we want to start pulling business intelligence out of Desk to help our engineers work on their priorities. So I will go back into Desk, and I'm going to click on Cases, and I'll click on Macros. And I've got my 2 macros set up here, so I'm going to click on Data Log 1. And we have a name. We're going to make sure we put it in our Tier 1 folder. This is an entry-level macro, so our other tiers don't need to see it. And we will set our status to pending. Again, to reiterate, we were waiting on information from that customer to come back, so we're waiting for it, so we'll put it in pending. And we will use our liquid variable, and we're just going to ask them what platform we're using. And I'm going to make sure that this goes to our Tier 1 group. And I'm going to update it. Then the second macro, you would actually create 1 macro per platform. I'm only going to do 1 today for iOS just to sort of show you what I'm talking about. And again, that's in our Tier 1 macro. We've got our data log 2. We're going to put our status to pending. We're going to have our brackets showing our liquid variable. And then we can tell them the instructions are pretty simple in this case. It's in the options section, and we want them to send back to us. I'm also going to put a macro or an internal note here for my agents so that they know this is the second of 2 macros and that after this their process is done. We'll assign it to our Tier 1 group, and we'll update. So I can go to a case here, and I'm in the reply, and I will type # data log, and we'll use the first one. And we're asking for the platform. We're putting it in pending. Contact reason is password reset, and we'll send an update. Then Bob here, he comes back, and he tells us he's on iOS. So again, I will just type # iOS, and now I got the instructions. Now, as a manager, my platform is very important. This is one metric that I have been told we need to know on every single case what platform someone is asking us about. This is how our engineering team is going to prioritize which platforms to work on. So how can we make sure that our agent remembers to fill this out? Well, we're going to create a rule. So we'll go to Cases, Rules, and rather than an inbound interaction, this is going to be case updated because we want this rule to look at when a case is updated. I'll click on the pencil icon here. So our conditions are as follows. First, the case status is resolved. And the reason this is we want to capture the platform at the end of the case. You know, throughout the case, if it's impending, customer might say they're on iOS, and it turns out, oh, sorry, I meant Mac. So we want to capture that last value. Then for platform, we're just going to leave this blank because that's what we're concerned about. We just don't want it to be blank. For rule actions, we're going to open that case right back up, and we're also going to append a case label that lets the agent know why the case is opened back up. If we don't add that label, you know, it might be a little bit confusing. They might be confused as why every time they resolve a given case, it opens back up. So this is a nice visual indicator. And we'll turn it back on, and we will update. So now, if I try to resolve this case, and I hit update, you can see it doesn't let me do that. It opens it right back up, it puts platform required, and as a quick reminder, logs in my case timeline why that case opened right back up. So this time, I will choose iOS, and I will update and resolve, and I can go ahead and move on. So look at that, all resolved. If you have multiple fields that you'd like to make required, we can just simply move the case platform to an any condition. So we'll say case platform is blank, and we'll say contact reason is blank, and we can just keep adding them. And they need to be any conditions because we want the rule to evaluate when any of these are blank. The one thing we would have to change here is we would have to change our label to just required field empty. We wouldn't be able to, if we want one rule for all of our required fields, we wouldn't be able to indicate specifically which field is the issue. So that was a lot. That was about 45 minutes of productivity tips. So a quick reminder of everything that we covered today, which was a lot. We talked about why efficiency is important. And again, it's something that we're passionate about because we care about our customers. We're passionate about our customers. We talked about our four main tools, rules, macros, liquid variables, and regular expression. We talked about performing rule actions based on specific content within the body of a customer's email. So we talked about sending an auto acknowledgement based on a word, even if it's misspelled. We talked about setting a custom field based on some kind of information in there. We talked about using regular expression to overcome capitalization and misspelling in customer messages. We talked about single-step macro with an escalation. That was when we asked the customer for more information for that password reset. We talked about multi-step macros as well as making a custom field required. So with that, let's go ahead and see what kind of questions we can get to. Barb, what do we have?
Thanks, Brian. So that was a lot of information. We did have a number of good questions come in. So Bonnie, I know you had a question about using regular expressions. So Brian, if you could go back into the rules area, let's look at one of the regular expressions rules you created. So just a reminder, if you are planning on using regular expressions, there is that checkbox underneath each of the conditions where you do plan on using regular expressions, and the answer is yes. You do have to remember to check that box, because alternatively, I guess, Brian, I think you'd explain it well, otherwise it'll look for a word.
Yes. If we don't check this box, it's literally going to look for, imagine quotation marks around this, it's going to look for someone who has typed out colon or bracket, letter, bracket, curly bracket, A, curly bracket, A. And the likelihood of that being an email is very, very low. So clicking this box tells Desk, oh, that's not a literal word they're looking for. This is an expression. We want to parse the email for this text.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so let's see. In terms of if your emails are coming from a no reply within your app, there are different ways that you can still use regular expressions to look for the content of the email. So if, and this of course comes down to what questions your customers are asking. Regular expressions and creating those auto acknowledgements that get sent out to customers for very commonly asked questions, those are great for things like password reset or very specific things that most of your customers are asking, and it doesn't require a lot of human intervention, but it just says, hey, go to this thing, here's how you can reset your password or something similar. But if you know your agents do need to read and really understand what the customer is asking, you may not want to send a specific instruction set through an auto acknowledgement. So again, that discretion is certainly up to you and what types of questions your customers are asking.
And one way to think about this is we do recommend an auto acknowledgement in general. And one way to think about this might be you send all of your customers an auto acknowledgement, but you send a slightly tweaked auto acknowledgement in the case where someone mentions the word password. So this person would have gotten an auto acknowledgement either way, because that's the best practice, but this one is just slightly tweaked with information about resetting a password. And then you could say something like, if this does not help you get back into your account, an agent will be with you shortly. Or let us know and an agent will be with you shortly. So it's not that, this is, so it's just a tweaked auto acknowledgement with specific information. And so similarly, I mentioned if someone mentions the phrase event calendar, you could send them, your auto acknowledgement says, thank you for reaching out to us. You can expect a response in 1 to 2 hours. If you're looking for our event calendar, here's a link to it.
Exactly. So we have another question from Gordon. So Gordon is asking if we can create a rule with an area code of a phone number to research the state. And so I guess, Gordon, if I was to paraphrase it, it sounds like you're saying that you're either, if you're getting the customer to submit their phone number, you're trying to match the location of what state they could potentially belong to.
That's interesting.
So that could be a little bit tricky. I mean, yes, I don't know how many area codes there are per state if you cover all of the U.S., but you'd essentially need to create a rule to set the custom field for every single state. How many states are there?
Yeah, so basically I think what we would do there, this would be a little time consuming, but it would be kind of a cool rule. So if we would first set up an inbound interaction to set a field for area code. So if you have area code, you can use regular expression to just pull out the first 3 digits of a phone number, because again, regular expression looks for patterns. So if it's looking for 3 digits, 4 digits with dashes in between, we can tell it to capture the first 3, and then you would just need a rule with a lot of conditions.
Yeah.
So we would say
it would be something like I think the Bay Area, like 415 or what are the other area codes here?
Right.
I don't even know.
Right.
947 or something like that. So you can definitely use multiple or conditions within regular expressions. And the website that Brian used, the regexer, it has a cheat sheet that shows you the different patterns that you can use to look for multiple area codes and then set the specific state. Now, because there are a lot of states, you literally have to create a rule for every single state to set that value.
Yeah.
But if you're looking just in general to get customers to tell you what state that they're contacting you from, this would be probably a more elegant solution for the contact form.
Yeah.
So again, the contact form is something you can 100% customize. So as an example, Brian, maybe you can go to the desk support site, so support.desk.com. If you scroll down to the bottom where we have the email desk support, here's an example of how our team at Desk has taken the contact form and really customized it to get the information that we need. So for example, we want to know your site ID, what version of the agent UI you're working in, and a couple of other questions. So here is a perfect example where you can put a drop down for, what state are you in? And so that way you don't necessarily have to use regular expressions, and your customers will tell you up front from a drop down list of states where they're contacting you from if the state value is very important for your interactions, and it's something that you do need for delivering the service that you're delivering.
Yeah, I definitely think that the easier solution there and the simpler one is to, wherever you're gathering their phone number, also requiring their state and making both of those fields required. And that's something that we can do with the desk contact form. Just for funsies, if we had a limited number of states, like maybe 4, and we could say area code to state, would have to be California, 1 per state, like Barb was saying. And so we would say we would need any condition, and you would literally need 1 of 3 of these. So it would be or 1 for every area code. So it would be 925.
You can use a regular expression bar to separate those ors.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. So we can just do 925.
And then not the slash with bar.
Oh.
Which is like this one that goes up and down.
Oh, a pipe. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't know the right word for that.
So we could say 925, 415, 760, and so on and so forth for all. I mean, it would be a lot of them. And then you would say for your rule action, state, set case state to California.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, I mentioned this, like I said, I definitely think we want to get the state wherever you're collecting their phone number. But for those of you out there who might be thinking of something similar with a different use case, I did want to point out that this was a rule that we could set up if we want to look for a number of other values.
Mm-hmm. Great question. Austin has a question. If you're using the rule to auto-reply, why would you need to set the cases pending? Isn't that the status that the case would get automatically? So I think he's referring to the macro where you set case status to pending as part of the macro that the agent used. And so I guess, Austin, there's a couple of answers to this. There's no right or wrong way to do it. If you go into the settings section of your site, it's either here, basically where you set, or is it in the agent section, where it basically sets the default behavior of what you want desk cases to do. And actually, I think it's in the cases section under agents in the left-hand side. Yeah, so automatic set to pending. So there is a setting there called set to pending. You have the option to set it to pending when the reply is sent, no status changes, or when case is edited. So it depends on your default settings. In most cases, we do recommend that customers usually set to pending when a reply is sent, but not everybody uses that feature. So what Brian was showing is that in case you don't have that and you do want to go to pending, you can use the macro to do that. But alternatively, I mean, if you already have it set automatically to pending through the main settings, it's not going to break anything. It's just sort of an extra precaution there.
Yeah.
All right. And then I guess, Brian, we do have some other questions where people are looking for where they can find a little bit more information about learning, or some examples with regex. Do we have any support center articles?
We do, and I do have a quick slide here. So, like I said, my goal here today is, if you want to use these exact examples, Barb is going to drop a link to a support article in oh yeah, you'll get an email with the deck. You'll get an email with the video. I think I have a link to an article here with all of the stuff that I talked about today. So I'll just drop that in here. And so, like I said, my goal today was trying to just spark some amount of get your wheels rolling and think about how you can give your customers a great experience. If there's anything in here you saw that inspires you, but you need some help tweaking it, first things first, our support team is available. They love working on stuff like this. It's a really fun way to think about using Desk. So you can email them, you can call them domestically or internationally. And then specific examples in Desk would be, so we can search for regular expression. And we have an example here as well as I mentioned an interesting example. I know a lot of people are dealing with spam these days, so we can use spam to kill, use regular expression to kill spam the ninja way. And so this is another great article I would check out. And then there's other articles in here, so we could search for it. And then another thing that you might want to just do here is I just grabbed some dummy text here. So you can Google create dummy text, or you can just actually, copy a book or what have you, and just start playing around with it. If we look at the cheat sheet here, if you're so inclined, we have a lot of different options here. The ones that we use a lot is, the brackets, and we can start getting into digits here. We can see that the parentheses is sort of what we call capture. The stars and pipes, this is what we were just showing here, so we wouldn't see if we want this or this. This is another just great way to play around.
All right, we have a couple more minutes. If you guys have any burning questions, please feel free to ask. And for those of you that are still curious to see how the password auto reply actually works, I do encourage you to look in the chat window. We put the email address. It's briansbikehelp@gmail.com. So if you send in a quick test email, just have the word password either lower or upper capital.
Any
combination.
Any 8 letters that are in the word password.
Yeah. So when you do send that in, have that in the subject or body, or just vanilla, use the word password. You should get an auto reply from Brian's site that basically has those password reset instructions. So I know Brian did show it on the screen what it does look like, but don't be afraid. So feel free to test it out and see what that experience is like from the customer side, as you're thinking through what are the things that you can automate within your team. Is that something that you want to be able to provide to your customers for a really fast reply to maybe some really common questions that you get where an agent would essentially be sending them a link anyways?
We got another question here that I want to tackle in our last few minutes that I thought was really interesting. And basically we want to know, could we show another liquid variable that could be used in a macro template other than first name? So we have an article here that I'll drop into the chat box that has some examples. And another one that comes up a lot is, you can see all the options here. I believe, Barb, do you have room for an HTML link if we want to drop a link into a macro?
That is, yes, and that would be with text style.
Okay.
Like if you're trying to do like the exclamation mark, URL, exclamation
Gotcha.
mark. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so first we'll grab the case ID. So this is one that comes up a lot. And we can use them in the reply here, but imagine that I put this into a macro. So I could say hi customer dot first name thank you for contacting us. Your case ID is, your case number is. And this, a lot of times people will maybe call in later and they want to reference their case because they have an update, and this way we can make sure that they know their case number. Some other ones might be case status. So this one I've seen used a lot more in internal use cases. So if you're working with your IT team and you want to let your employees know what the status of their case is, you could say your case status is. And these can be used in macros, auto acknowledgements, notifications. Another example is okay, that's a great point, Barb. Another example that I'll mention is I work with a dog food company, and they have nutritionists that don't have desk licenses, so they frequently use this option here to forward a case out to their nutrition expert. And what they want that nutrition expert is to answer the question as quickly as possible with the information they need. So what they'll do is they'll actually edit their forward theme, which we can do in our admin console, and right there at the top of the forward email is going to be the dog breed, because obviously nutrition is going to depend on the dog's size, the type of food the dog is eating, and all of that stuff that you want those nutritionists to see right up front. We can also drop in custom fields with a liquid variable. So if I wanted to, perhaps say, maybe I have a part number, and I wanted to say, your part number is, and then I would grab, let's see, custom.
I think there's you have to go to the full list of liquid
variables. Oh, okay, got it.
Grab the format for the custom.
So this is a great article. Just slightly out of time here, so I'm not going to find it, but there's this, you can see the entire list here. We have so many options. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention that I started talking about is Textile is another tool that basically it's a markup language. So if you wanted to, the agent reply here, this is plain text, but you can see it takes certain objects and can do stuff with them. So if I wanted to turn something into a link, I would just use, let's see, or can you remember what the link is?
To Textile?
Yes. Or what is?
For links, URLs? Yeah, so basically, there it is. It's exclamation mark, your URL, and then close with an exclamation mark.
Got it.
Yeah.
So for example, if I'm in a macro in my admin console, oh, here we go. And maybe I want to give someone a link to something specifically, and I want it to be a clickable link. So in this case, for my password reset macro, if I wanted to say, you can find your username here, and I wanted a specific link, then I would do exclamation point, briansbikes.com/username. And then that, when it goes to the customer, will actually be a clickable link. So that's how we can add rich text in agent replies and macros with Textile, and all of the wonderful use cases for liquid variables. Oh, thanks, Greg. Of course. And let's see. We had a question about a link for the webinar. You will all get an email tomorrow with a copy of the deck and a copy of the recording. It just takes a little while to render and get up and sent, so that will come tomorrow. And I think with that, Barb, is there any other thing any other questions we want to cover? We are over time here.
I think that covers most of the questions. Again, if there are ones that we did not have answered, just remember, as Brian mentioned, we do have other admin webinars every Thursday. So if you are looking for other opportunities to learn more about Desk, specifically setting things up, if you go to the Resources tab under Webinars and Events, we have a full calendar for you of all of the events that are coming up. And as you see, tomorrow we actually have our new Admin 1, so that's for new admins who are looking to figure out how to use Desk. And the following week we have Admin 2, which is more advanced. And I encourage you guys to join the webinars, ask questions, and of course our support team is available to answer questions at any time as well. I think with that, thank you so much for joining. Brian, great job leading the webinar. I learned a lot.
Thanks, Barb, for joining us. One last pitch here. If you want to work out any other specific questions, our support team is a wonderful, wonderful resource. They're great people, and they love to help. All right, and with that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a productive and efficient week. Goodbye.